Everyone, I want to post a little bit just about how things have gotten better for me in regards to parenting. Now, I had some feelings of worry in when I talk about this that, it might make me sound like I'm just an unhappy parent, which is not at all the case. I spend all my time with my daughter, and, maybe that's part of it, but um, there's just one element of parenting that I struggle with, and that is my patience. Um, we get along great. We do so many fun things together, but there is this point I get to where it takes me right back to my own childhood, and that is what I most have been wanting to heal. So I just want to share a little bit about that first. So the main thing, I'm sitting on a park bench right now while she plays. The main thing is when I was young, my own father went through a period where he was especially more impatient, even than usual, but I would not call him a patient man in general. I would say he must have been going through something because mostly between the ages of like 14 to 20, he had zero patience for me, for anything about me. And really, if I really have stopped to think about it, that's sort of been the dynamic of my whole childhood, just with my parents' style of parenting in general. There wasn't any room for being especially precocious. You certainly weren't allowed to have any opinions to share, things like that. And I I feel like I hated my dad for a while, as a teenager. We just were oil and water, and it was the hardest thing for me to feel so like everything you did is wrong, so unwanted, and I basically swore like I'm never going to be that way, all of that. you know, um, Even now, if someone were to, yell at me, I think my typical pattern has been to sort of recoil and get really quiet and go inward, just takes you right back to that place of feeling like a child again. So imagine my surprise when I become my own parent and the first year is swimmingly great, everything is fantastic, and then she gets to the age where she has a personality that shines through, and then my child starts exhibiting behaviors that are not just crawling or walking or making gurgling noises, but their personality and their what might be considered, you know, stubborn or obstinate or whatever. None of these positions are comfortable. I'm sorry, I keep moving this. um, and I noticed that I start immediately finding myself in that same place where I cannot deal. I'm finding myself impatient. And I know that in part this is mimicking what I know. It's basically impossible to know something you haven't been shown in your own life. And I want to say that I feel like I'm experiencing this lack of patience. And really, I mean, it's been a factor in most of my life. I think maybe I'm just a lot like my dad in this way, actually, where when it comes to parenting, it's probably learned. But when it comes to other things like follow through or, wanting to know something right away or finish something right away or whatever, um, I've always been very all or nothing, black and white. And I think that that is one of my main life lessons I'm here to learn. This is a pattern that has repeated itself in my life for as long as I can remember. And I think that with parenting, it has become clear to me not only that this is a pattern I need to heal, that this is a life lesson for me, but it's also granted me compassion for um, the behaviors my own father experienced with me. Um, the things that I could only look at as a child as being extremely hurtful, I can try to look at now in a more relatable way, is that I can see how you can lose yourself in a moment, how you can feel so overwhelmed that it really lowers your vibration at that time. And so all of these things are part of my journey. And you know what? I'm looking at it now as it was frustrating because I didn't know how to make it better. It's just like everything started irritating me. And I really just didn't know how to make it better. And now I'm looking at it as like it's a gift. It's such a gift to experience those moments that sort of remind us why we're here and give us that opportunity to heal ourselves, to heal our patterns, to reach another level of compassion. It really is such a gift. And so, in a few videos from now, when I've finished reading some of my books, I want to share the book list of ways that I've healed my own inner child, which is really, I think, at the root of our problems. Is what we need to do is look at what is simmering below the surface. What is the cause for this? What do I need? What's lacking here? And so for me, my impatience, I feel like, well, it's in that moment. I can't get her to listen. I can't, she's screaming in the middle of the grocery store. What am I supposed to do with that? That kind of thing. And what it is a mixture of, that is the only type of parenting that I know, is forced, my way or the highway kind of parenting. You don't make a show, you don't show opinions, there was no room for any of that. And it was very forcefully put on me that that's the way things were. And so to now be a parent and have to figure out this new kind of way, because that certainly doesn't actually resonate deep within myself, is very, very hard. So I have learned that for me, it's my own wounds that are a trigger for me. Not just lacking the knowledge of how to parent differently, because I know how to parent differently, that's a part of it. I've done a lot of reading and listening to podcasts and things like that, watching videos about parenting gently, attachment parenting, continuum concept, RIE, Janet Lansbury, which totally resonates. But the how to change your pattern is the impossible part unless you go to the why is this my pattern? And for me, I knew intuitively what I needed to do was to heal my inner child and to fill in those holes within my soul and my own experience before I could move forward. And so I want to share my book list soon, and I will. I just want to finish reading them first and really be able to give a full review on each one. But in the meantime, I just want to share how everything has so drastically changed for me so far when it relates to the patience levels I have with my parenting. I mean, even the person I was a week ago is a completely different person than I am today. And there have been times where I've been able to sustain more patience than usual because I'm just really, really trying through pure force of will and just not responding to things. But it doesn't last because I've not healed my perception nor my own experience until now. And it has made all the difference. And my parenting experience now is so beautiful. And I mean, even more than ever, it was like there was this one blemish upon my parenting experience so far that made it really unenjoyable sometimes, if I'm being honest. She's my whole world, but there is this aspect that just really, I really, really struggled with. And now there's nothing left but the joy of it. So I want to share that. First of all, I finished a book that I've been trying to finish for 2 years. But it is so emotionally heavy. It's been really difficult to get through. But I finally finished it. I must have started rereading it 3-4 times or more, and I finally got through it. And that book is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And it's a pretty popular book, so you may have heard from it. But that helped me primarily with healing my own wounds, in seeing my parents' choices for what they were, and releasing some of those. You know, I don't really know how to put it. I don't want to say forgiveness, because the thing is that um, you learn so much compassion in that book for, that parents are not capable of showing something they were never shown. And I know for a fact that both of my parents were children of also unavailable, cold, harsh parents, in a sense. So I was able to say, that is my experience as well. That is your experience. And I have compassion for that. And I feel for that. And I know that everything they did do, really, I mean, it was sourced in their own form of love and their own desires for what they wanted their world to be. And also taking some of the judgment out of their choices. Because at this point, Lord knows I've been there, you know? And it's been a very helpful book in healing myself and growing my own self-esteem, in healing some of the things that were lacking from when I was a child and the things I needed to hear. So that was really helpful. But also, the Gabrielle Bernstein book, The Judgment Detox, has had a huge impact. And really, I mean, it's really mainly about just not having judgmental thoughts about ourselves or others. But there are these elements of that book that were like, I mean, it could be a one-word phrase or one-sentence phrase, and it was just, that is what I needed to heal this right now. That is what I needed to hear. The biggest things for me that have helped me, I can just kind of give a short list, because trust me, I have tried everything. I've tried just pure self-control, listening to the podcasts, reading the books, beating myself up, guilt. I've tried just about everything through sheer force of will to make this better, and none of it has worked until now. And those things are, number one, not judging her behavior. Let me give an example. I realize that a lot of the times when I get sort of, I don't want to say needlessly upset and in such invalidate myself, but I do want to say they are things I could have let go and chosen to do it that way, but I didn't find myself capable of doing that. Those situations, for example, this morning, I noticed I was in the office looking for my shoes, and it was dark in there because I had only turned the hallway light on outside of the office, and I was looking for it, and she decided to go up and start flicking the hallway light on and off, on and off, on and off. And I felt myself like, ooh, I find this irritating me right now a lot, because I'm trying to look and I'm feeling like epileptic about it. I cannot search for what I'm searching for if you're doing that. And in that moment, I'm feeling myself wanting to be like, knock it off. Why are you doing that? But in reality, I am judging her behavior in saying, really, it's irritating me because I'm trying to do something, because I didn't think to turn on the office light for whatever reason. All she is doing as a child is exploring. She's like, oh, how does this light switch work? What does this do if I flip it on and off? And these are curiosities we want to nurture, not bark at and then eventually close them off to being curious. That's not what I want. And in those moments, it's difficult to think in that way, but really that's what it is. And, I felt that arising in myself of like, oh, that's irritating me. And as I'm thinking about it, before I made this video, I was thinking, she's not actually doing anything that could be perceived as negative. It's irritating me, meaning I'm judging what she is doing, and thus the old me would have barked at her for that and said, Lorelai, stop doing that, And that is a big, big shift to consider. There are so many elements where what they're doing is really just irritating for us, or frustrating for us, or embarrassing for us. Like, for example, a meltdown at the grocery store. They really, really just want to communicate to you that they want something or don't want something. But because we're embarrassed because of the surrounding, we're not going to handle that with compassion, right? Typically. And so those are things to consider. So I realized that I'm essentially just judging her behavior. You don't need to be doing that because it's annoying to me. Rather than, she's a child, she's exploring. And I think there are so many elements where then if we don't judge their behavior, and obviously this is a thin line because parenting and non-judgment, it's a slippery slope a little bit, because as parents we do end up needing to, in a sense, judge, are they being good people, are they doing the right thing, that sort of thing. And so it might be best to just observe what it brings up for us in silence before responding to it. So judging less, and that brings me to number 2, which is observing more and saying less. Because I'm a very talkative person and I express everything that I feel and think, I think I found myself feeling the need to approve or deny everything she did, in a sense. I'm not in any way a helicopter parent by any means, but when it comes to behaviors, I was very much crowed over myself as a child, and so that's the parenting I know. Everything they think, express, or do, I felt like I needed to be involved in that, and releasing that need has been helpful. There are times I'm able to just be like, she's expressing an emotion, and I can validate that emotion, but I don't need to respond to it in the sense of like how I feel about it or what I think it should be. And number 3 would be being present. Now, this is in order more or less of most importance. Like, the last 2 are the most important. These are the last 2. Second to the last is being present, which I felt like I was always doing. And I feel like when she was a newborn, I was more so present than I have been in her toddler age. So, being present has been a big deal because of things like when she's talking to me and she's kind of yammering on, and I find myself growing frustrated because she tends to talk really loud and go over and over things over again, just the way children do, really. I find that bringing up frustration in me a lot of times, because she'll start whining about what she wants or acting frustrated because I didn't give her what she wants or whatever. And it's usually because I'm in the middle of something. I'm grocery shopping. I'm trying to, reply to a message I got. I'm in the middle of doing the dishes and she wants me to drop everything or whatever. And while on the surface it looks very inconvenient, I found that stopping what you're doing to be present in that moment really isn't that much of an inconvenience. Not really. It really feels like it will be. And I think emotionally it feels inconvenient because we want to do what we've set out to do, But I would recommend, if you're struggling with this, just to try it. Like, if you're doing dishes and she really wants a drink and I'm like, my hands are wet, I'm in the middle of this, would you quit repeating yourself, What's really helped me is just being present in that moment with her, listening to what she's saying, hearing how she's feeling, and it only takes a second, Okay, I can get that for you. And really, essentially, the biggest aspect of being present is I think that it fills this need that we had as kids, in that we really wanted our parents to be very present with us. And a lot of times, most times probably, we didn't get that. So I think that's a big deal because, the biggest feature of it is that we're able to heal ourselves by healing them. So my last one is multifaceted. My last one is about how I see her. Seeing her in light has been big. And I want to name all these points before I forget, but seeing her in light as a soul, as someone that isn't just a child, that isn't just frustrating at times. She's a soul, and she chose me, and she's here to teach me all those kinds of things. Seeing her in light and compassion. Seeing her mainly as me. Because I look at the world as interconnected and all of these souls as simply aspects of the whole. She is me, in my opinion, and I am her. And so not only does that offer us this perspective of compassion for her, for our children, this like, wow, I have also experienced this. I experienced wanting something I couldn't have. And so I really feel for this big emotion she's having when there's something she can't have. And that allows us to respond with grace and compassion and love rather than frustration when you really genuinely are thinking of it that way. But also, because I consider her me, it gives me this second chance to heal myself by healing her. By giving her the experience, the attention, the patience, and the compassion that I needed when I was younger, I thereby give it to myself. And it's helpful to feel like this is a karmic lesson that she's here to teach me, that I'm supposed to learn, that I am honored to get to learn in this life rather than having to wait and do this all over again. I get to learn it now. I get to heal this now, and I get to go on the rest of my life feeling healed and feeling like she's been healed, and thereby so have I. It's an honor when you look at it that way. And, just slowing down enough that these dishes, nothing bad's going to happen if these dishes, if this last two plates, if they don't get done right this second, nothing bad's going to happen. I can turn off this water. I can breathe in, and I can experience this moment with her. And lastly, I just want to add doing meditations and working on the inner child at the same time has really been helpful. I'm doing some affirmations as well. I am patient. Releasing guilt that I had from previous mistakes I made, which is something I'm still working on. It takes an actual practice to do that. Like it's an action you have to take to release guilt, but to stop judging ourselves, which is something I have done now. I've stopped judging myself for the choices I make before, and thereby you forgive yourself, really. I can see my choices with compassion. I can see my parents' choices with compassion. And I'm thrilled to potentially be able to break this cycle of impatience that's run in my family for who even knows how many years now with her. And she can go on to parent intuitively rather than being bogged down by some of the family karma cycle hangups that tend to repeat themselves in generations. So that is all. I've got this one. This is one I was going to share in my list, but this is a daily affirmation diary for the inner child. If you're looking for something like that, there's one for each day. And that's just an interesting little read if you kind of want a jumping off space. I hope this has been helpful, and it's been really nice for me to be able to share it. And I thank you, especially if you've made it this long, for listening to my experience and giving me space to be able to share it in my own way. There are a lot of things I thought would be easier, and there are a lot of things that are easier than I thought they would be. But I was unprepared for some of the past childhood experiences and emotions to come up for me the way that they have now that I'm my own parent. But at the end of the day, I'm glad they have. It gives me so much opportunity for growth and healing and just feeling so good. So I will chat more about this later.